Look at what Jesus does here, verse 3 and 4. Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I will. Be clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus said to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded for a proof to them. Okay, now, I know that this might be lost on a vast majority of us, but let me, if I can, help put you in the scene of what it would be like in first century at that time. Leprosy was basically a rendition of a zombie in the sense that they were physically dying. You could literally see the effects as their nerve endings were dying, as parts of their bodies was coming to an end, as they would have oftentimes the nubs of their hand, as they would not have full fingers. And they would be seen as religiously unclean. They could not participate in temple worship. Not only that, but no one else could be around them. So much so that when they would walk through a crowd, if they were even to be around a crowd of people, they would have to announce their presence by declaring unclean, unclean. And people would sort of part around that person, not in any way touching that person. This is not the friend that you invite over to the birthday party. This is not the friend that you have lunch with during the day at work. This is not the person you are with. And this person comes and postures himself before Jesus. And Jesus says something remarkable here. And it might not be what you would originally think. Jesus heals him, which is supernaturally remarkable. No one else could do that. But it's how Jesus does it. Go back to verse 3. It says there, Jesus stretched out his hand, and the leper would make you unclean. Jesus shows his compassion, that he does not care what others think of him, because he would, by societal rejection, believed to be now made unclean, except this man's now about to be made clean, and he reaches out and touches him. Now, what's so remarkable, as you're about to see in the next encounter, Jesus does not need to touch the man to heal him. He's about to heal a centurion servant who's in a whole nother town. He's not even present. So Jesus can simply say it, and it would be so. But what's remarkable is to see not simply the divinity, the deity of Jesus, but the compassion of Jesus. He touches him. Friends, this is incredibly important, because there might be someone who's even here this morning who thinks, Eric or Pastor Jeff or other elders or other Christians, you don't know what I have done. You don't know the places that I have been. Trust me, if you knew me, you probably would not want me here this morning. I deal with this conversation regularly at Grace Church in Miami. As people come into this community with maybe not physical leprosy, but what they feel like is spiritual leprosy. And they live in the aftermath of that with guilt and shame. Friends, I mean to point you to the heart of Jesus, to say there's no condition you can be in that he would not reach out to you and touch you and offer you spiritual healing. The posture of the leper is noted to be noteworthy. The posture of the leper is recognizing Jesus can if he will. And he postures himself before him and kneeling before him. Friends, that same reality is true for anybody here. If but posturing yourself before Jesus and saying, God, if you would forgive me. And I mean to say on behalf of Jesus Christ, he would gladly do so. Gladly offer that. But friends, this is not only a lesson for the leper, it's a lesson for the crowd watching. For those who think perhaps they are not unclean, would they have compassion on one like that? I thank the Lord for how the Lord is using the word here at Ballycullen Community Church in blessing Dublin and beyond. how the Lord is using the ministry here. And I would pray that would increase even more, that the people around here would know of the love of Christ as extended and represented by you to the people in your communities. The opportunity to give them such a message of compassion. I mean, for those of you who are not Christians, who maybe think, oh, if you knew me, you would not want me here. Friends, you should understand, local churches are just basically colonies of former spiritual lepers. That's what it did to us, that he fulfilled the law and then dies a substitute on the cross, that all those who would believe in him would be forgiven of their sins, and having him resurrect from the grave 3 days later says there's nothing left needed. Payment has been made in full. And it's by his works that we are saved. What encouragement this is. I don't want it to be lost in what happens there in verse 4. It might sound like a strange verse to some of you, because you're thinking, man, Jesus, this is a chance to get a PR campaign win. Jesus said to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded. You're like, Jesus, don't you want him to go public? Which he eventually does go public. What's Jesus talking about? Well, just again, so you understand the context of leprosy in that context, in all of Israel's history, there had never been a single occasion where leprosy was ever recorded as being cleansed, as being healed, except for one, Miriam, which is a separate context in the book of Numbers, what God was doing through Moses to teach there about speaking against the Lord's servant Moses. No other time. And yet in the Torah, in the law of God, there had been clear instructions given that if anybody claimed that they were healed of leprosy, what they're due to present themselves to the priest to be able to prove that, and then they could be brought back into the community that they had actually outcast from. Here's what's happening in the text. Jesus is sending a recently, as in minutes, former leper to the temple to see the